introducing a new product to you. This is a product out of Greece, and it is the Centerline Cuff. The Centerline Cuff is designed for beading, that you can bead between that center line, or you can actually use this as kind of a base to link onto. I'm going to show you the most simplistic way to use this Centerline Cuff with some seed beads and some thread and needles, actually sewing the beads onto the cuff itself. The cuff, like I said, is a product of Greece, and this is rhodium plated. We have rose gold and gold plated as well. And it is 10 millimeters wide by 58 millimeters long. It is expandable, that you can open and close it. And we're gonna, like I said, be decorating and using it kind of as a baseline. For the cuff, if you need the cuff or any materials, in the top right-hand corner here of the video, there's a little eye, which is information from us, the video creators, with links to some of the products that you can shop with me online. You can also go below the video to the date stamp that says when the video was produced. Click the Show More button there, and it'll give you links to the products as well. So if you're interested in getting these Centerline cuffs, you can check out the links there. Like I said, again, we have them in the different coatings and the different colors, from rose gold to rhodium, which is that bright silver, and then the gold plated as well. There are a couple different techniques that you can use for these cuffs, and one of them is the most simplistic way, which I will be showing you, by adding some beads in between. They're almost perfectly lined to add 11 OC beads or Delicas. You can see here as I move them up, they're a little bit shy of being able to add 4 Delicas long. You could also use 15 O's in here. I'm going to use some 1x8 millimeter cubes and some Delicas to show you the variety that you can use in the middle of the bracelet. You could do a zigzag pattern going from corners to corners. I'm going to show you again that simplistic straight line. To work with these open center cuffs here, I am using a needle and thread. I'm working with a size 10 English beading needle and some 0.006 Wildfire thread in the gray color. Because I'm working with thread, I have my thread zap here, which is going to be used to burn down the edges of the thread as we work with it, as well as the thread off the spool. You're going to need approximately 2 feet of your beading thread, or 24 inches, on your size 10 needle to work with the cuff. The cuff is going to have a series of holes that we are sewing into. On the example piece here, the rose gold one, I use some 11 O's as well as some 11 Delicas. Both of these are the Miyuki brand. I'm going to switch it up a little bit and use some Delicas on the silver one here, as well as some 1.8 millimeter cubes in the cocoa lined crystal color. I have that matte metallic dark raspberry in the Delica, and then I have the Delica in the Duracoat Galvanized pink blush that I will also be using in a series of 3 and sewing them on to the bracelet bar. So to get started, we need that size 10 needle out of the package onto about 2 feet of your beading thread, and we'll get ready to begin our open centered bar here. So the bar itself has 23 openings along the center here, or actually 46 holes when you double them. We're going to be sewing along the holes in a straight line. Like I said, you could throw your pattern off by actually going on a diagonal and kind of linking into that first hole. You could go straight across here along the sides and sew up and down and have the middle be opened. You can also switch up and use different style of beads, so it's really quite versatile. Again, I'm just going to be showing you the most simplistic way to add some seed beads into this bracelet. For the original design here, I added the seed beads and I sewed right across the back, which leaves you a line of thread along the back. What I'm going to show you for the example is how to actually go back through the seed beads. I've gone through each of the seed beads 2 times with my thread and then skipped from one hole along the baseline or the top line to the next hole. The reason I did the thread along the back here was because I wanted the seed beads to sit up along the bracelet. As we go back through the seed bead, rather than straight along the back, the beads are going to sit a little bit recessed inside our open middle cuff here. To get started, we're going to start at one of the ends of the cuff, at the very last hole. I'm going to come out the top of the cuff with my needle and just let my base line of my thread hang out there for a little bit, leaving just enough that I can tie a knot. Along the top then, pick your first color of your seed bead, and again I'm using 3. If you're using Delicas, you're going to do 3 beads, 11 O's, 3 beads. 15 O's, you can squeeze 4 beads on there. And if you're using 8 O seed beads, you're going to use 3. It might bubble over just a tiny little bit. I'm also using those 1.8 millimeter cubes, and I'll do 3 of those. So 3 beads go onto the needle, and you're going to go to the opposite hole on the other side. So the holes line up. I'm going right to the other hole. Sewing down, the beads will naturally kind of fall down a little bit. Rather than sewing straight over to the other hole, like I did on the example piece, the variety or the variation is to go back through the seed beads. So almost like you're looming the project, you're going to go back through the seed beads and pull the thread through. Give a nice tight pull. When I come out here, I'm going to let go of that stop thread, or that starter thread rather, and tie the thread ends together. So the needle and thread is coming out at the same spot right now as my starter thread. I'm going to try to get that as much towards the middle as I can so it doesn't sit on the metal frame. I want you to tie a knot 3 times, nice and tight. If you need to, you can even grab your needle nose pliers, which I like to have handy, and kind of use that to pull on the thread. From here, as you're coming out the seed beads, you're going to go back up through that first hole that you were originally coming out of. The starter thread here, it's going to make the thread appear a little bit more on the edges, but I want to go back through the seed beads and reinforce this first line that I did. As I come out the seed beads then, kind of wiggle your thread a little bit. If you come out towards the bottom, you just want to make sure to bring your thread towards the top, because I'm going to continually go over the top of the holes, sewing through. Then as I come out the baseline here, I'm sewing through the top, and I'm going to go from the upper hole to the next hole in line. What that's going to do, as I move my thread out of the line, is you're going to see a little bit of thread stepping from one hole, from that first hole to the second hole. From coming out the top here now, I'm going to add my next color. On go my 3 seed beads. Let those drop down into the project. And again, I want to maintain the top down method. So I'm sewing into the second hole from the top down towards the base. As I come out the base, I'll go underneath the project, bring my thread kind of out towards the top, and then sew through the seed beads. Or you can flip over your project. It's easier for me to show you with the camera angle how to go through and bring it up towards the top. From here, we're going to go through the base here, going from top to bottom, and then we're going to go back through the seed beads one more time, going along. Oh, get twisted there, you can just untwist. We're going to make sure our thread is coming out along the bottom of the seed beads. Go through the seed beads. And again, this is just reinforcing the thread. I'm going to make sure that I have 2 pieces of thread on each hole so that way the thread will not come apart. Going then from the top to the bottom along the project, I'm going to skip over to the 3rd hole. What you'll notice then that's going to start occurring is as you see that thread going along the baseline, and it's hard to see the gray because I'm using the actual silver bracelet, you're going to start to see a zigzag pattern going on, where you have the thread at the bottom going from the first to the second hole, then the top from the second to the third. The next hole is going to switch to the bottom, to the top, and so on, going every other. You should also always see 2 threads coming out of each side of your beads. Coming out the top 3rd hole then, I'm going to add my 3 cubes. You can see they'll kind of fit perfectly in between here. Go over to the other side, go from the top down to the bottom. Pull those beads right in place and kind of push them down a little bit. Bring the thread and needle from the bottom and go through those beads and out the other side. And these beads will sit a little bit up since they are a little tiny bit wider. From there, I'm going to go down through that hole. Again, bring that needle towards the top, back through the seed beads, and back through those cubes, and then take the needle and thread through the hole again. Always going when you're on the top from the needle, from the front of the bracelet towards the back. From there, I'll progress to the next hole, going along the base of the bracelet. From here, it's just following your pattern, going ahead and doing the alternating of the seed beads, which are going to sit a little bit recessed, and then those cubes that sit a little bit up, going along the bracelet. If you choose to, you can also have the thread that goes right along the bracelet. It's almost going to have that kind of accordion look, that the thread is going to be exposed along the back, or like we're doing on the example, you can tuck the thread into the beads again, so that way you don't see the thread exposed along the back. Continue building your bracelet with your pattern, whatever that may be. You can do all a pattern the exact same color. You can do tons of different colors. You can do a fade, but play around with the different textures kind of the different mattes and crystals and silver lines, and continue building your bracelet down those 23 rows of the holes. As you come to the end of the project after adding your beads in, it's time for you to basically tie off your thread. Another thing that you may want to have handy is some super new glue if you want to glue off the ends of the bracelet, kind of where you tie on the thread. I'm coming out of the last of my seed beads, and I'm going to bring the thread and needle towards the back, just like I did on the sample piece, as well as the beginning thread. Coming out the front then, and sewing in towards the base or the middle of the bracelet, just like I was continuing on with the design. I'm going to come out the back. From here, I want to flip over the project, and I'm going to sew underneath one of those bridge threads, the threads that go along the base kind of the bracelet. And it's a little bit hard to see there. I'm going to sew underneath one of those threads. Try to focus that a little bit more for you guys. We're going to sew underneath. When I'm catching the thread underneath, I'm going to sew and make a loop. With that loop, I'm going to sew back through that loop that I just made with my thread and needle. Pull nice and tight, and that's going to get you a knot right there on the end. I'm going to do the same thing again, going underneath one of the bridge threads, making a loop, sewing through that loop that I just created, and pulling down a nice tight knot. From there, I'll sew through the Delica beads one more time to get to the other side. And when I come out the other side of those Delica beads, bring your thread towards the back of the project. My needle fell off because it's getting short. I'll just tuck the thread through between some beads and bring it out towards the back. Once it's out the back, then I'm going to take my thread burner, burn down the thread, creating a little bit of a knot right after the bead so it can't escape through the beads. And then I'll grab my super new glue and glue down a little bit on the other end, which I've already done, as well as the starter, and then I'll add a little bit of glue to finish off the project after using the thread zap to burn it down. At that point then, grab that. The whole project is actually going to be finished. So we're done with that bar bracelet, that open bar bracelet right there. Centerline. And like I said, this is kind of the most simplistic way to decorate them, is to use some seed beads that are designed exactly for it to fit in those channels for this product from Grease, but have fun with it. You can sew and go around the outside of the bracelet. I've seen some fun designs with this, creating whole bars that kind of slip on the outside. You can do something that will slip over a peyote casing almost, and then stitch that peyote casing onto the bracelet. So a lot of fun designs for this expandable center row there cuff bracelet. Again, if you need any of the materials to have fun creating this, you can go back to the beginning of the video where I link to the actual products that are used with the eye in the top right hand corner, or below where the date stamp is. And that date stamp, again, if you hit the show more button, that'll drop down and give you links to purchase some of the materials from me online. Again, if you want to and you like these products, you can order them at potomacbeads.com. You can also stay connected with us by subscribing to this YouTube channel. When you subscribe to this YouTube channel, you'll get regular updates from us that are for product updates like these new cuff bracelets, as well as videos showing how to use the new products and new designs that are coming up. You can also visit us on Facebook, check us out on Instagram and Pinterest, as well as join our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. It's a closed group that's a wonderful interactive way to get some design help and ideas and inspiration from wonderful people that love the art of making jewelry. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have fun if you get a chance to play around with this center row, this middle row cuff bangle bracelet.